Hi, I'm Lori Rubenstein, and I am so excited to share with you, uncover and transform the three archetypes secretly sabotaging your business and personal success. And this training is near and dear to my heart, and I want to welcome you and I want to thank you for taking the time to be here today with me and watching this video. I know there's a lot of places you can be spending your time. So thank you for choosing to spend it with me and watching this video. So let me tell you a little bit about me in case you don't know me. I work with small business owners who have built a great business. They've done it over time. They've been successful, they're high achieving. And over that time, slowly they've begun to get more and more entangled into their business until one day a catalyst happens, whether it's a birthday, an event, and they wake up thinking, I can't do this anymore because I don't have a life. And what I do is I help them turn that around. And many of these small business owners have teams. And if they have teams, I help them turn that around and I show them new ways to be able to build their business. And I help them clear these patterns, archetype beliefs that are running subconsciously so that they have more freedom to do the business differently, so that they have more time for themselves, they have more time for their life, they can still grow their business, and they can create a lifestyle that they love. And I love doing that. So I want to tell you a little story before we begin and we talk about the three archetypes that started my journey in really studying and understanding archetypes, subconscious patterning, and what kind of an impact it has on a business in your personal life. And when I was 24, I joined Mary Kay Cosmetics right out of college. I had gotten a degree in accounting, and I quickly learned that I was not going to be able to sit in a cubicle 60 hours a week doing accounting work. And as the universe had it, long story for another time, I ended up in Mary Kay Cosmetics. And in the first, I was highly unlikely for me to be in Mary Kay. I was very shy. I didn't talk to people. I didn't wear makeup. I was a tomboy. And I wasn't sure I really wanted to work with women because in the corporate environment, I hadn't found that to be a really good environment for me. But I ended up spending 20 years in Mary Kay. And in the first 18 months that I was working that business, I won my first car and I moved up into the first leadership position, which was directorship. And I had a group of women under me that I was now training and teaching how to build their business so they could move up in the company and create more choices in their life. And I was excited. I was doing really well, but I had one bad egg in my unit. I had a woman who was talking behind my back. And she was incredibly negative. She would disrupt meetings, and I did not deal with it. I did not nip it in the bud. This went on for a little bit. And because I didn't deal with it and I didn't nip it in the bud, I didn't want to upset the apple cart. I didn't want to cause a big conflict. But the result of it was I almost lost my car and I lost about half of the people in my unit because of her. And I learned really quickly that I really needed to deal with it immediately and and nip that stuff in the bud. And this was the beginning of my journey into looking at archetypes, subconscious patternings, beliefs, our stories, cultural impact that runs subconsciously. We don't even know it's there, but it's negatively impacting our life and our business. And when we turn that around and we can bring that up to a conscious level and heal it and clear it, it's amazing the amount of freedom and new choices you have to do things differently. So these 3 archetypes, after 20 years, I got ahead of myself. So I spent 20 years in Mary Kay, and I built a top 2% area across the United States. And after 20 years, I decided to start my own coaching business. And I started Step Into Great 15 years ago. And what I found with the hundreds of small business owners, women small business owners that I have worked with, is that these 3 archetypes, if not all 3, at least 1 or 2 of them, are always running in their business when they hit this point. So I want to share them with you today because they are sneaky, and this is the shadow side of them. But the beautiful thing about it is if you recognize the shadow side of them and you can shift it, they can become your ally and they can actually help you. So I'm going to help you do that today. So I'm going to show you how each of these archetypes can negatively impact you, your business, and your personal life, and how to turn that around. And this is important because if you are unknowingly playing out these roles, it can lead to overwhelm, burnout, and block your growth, both professionally, your business growth, and your personal growth. So by the end of this session, you're going to be able to identify these archetypes and know what to do to shift them for greater success. So today we're going to explore the 3 archetypes: the fixer, the martyr, and the people pleaser. So we're going to start with the fixer. Now, the motto of the fixer is if you want it done right, you've got to do it yourself. And I have to admit, I used to say that a lot when I was younger and in Mary Kay as I was coming up. You know, I'd hear myself say a lot, if I want it done right, I've got to do it. And I grew up hearing that in my own family. And a lot of these things we adopt just culturally and from our family and our different environments that we're in. But if you hear yourself saying that, this is part of the fixer. And the fixer is constantly trying to save or rescue everyone else, whether it's their clients, their team members, or their family. And it can get really convoluted when you're in there trying to fix everything, especially with team members in your family, because then they could start to expect you to come in and fix it. So this archetype can lead to overworking, neglecting your own priorities, and taking on too much responsibility. So if you're doing any one or all of these 3 things, more than likely you've got the fixer archetype story running subconsciously. So the fixer shows up as constantly stepping in to solve others' problems, even when it's not your role. And this might sting a little. A lot of high achieving people that have the fixer archetype like to have control. And I'm speaking as I like to say, reform control freak. Not always. But in times of stress, the fixer archetype is running, you're going to start micromanaging task to ensure things get done your way, and that can lead to burnout. And when you do that, it not only impacts the amount of time you're working, but it also impacts how effective your team is going to be. So these are pretty big things if you find yourself micromanaging. And I know when I first looked into this, I was like, I don't micromanage. But when I get stressed, and in times of stress, still to this day, I can double down on control and start micromanaging. Although now I catch it pretty quickly, so I can stop doing it because I'm aware of it. And once you know how these archetypes show up, 90% of this is awareness that you can catch it and then shift the behavior around it. So one of the things you can do, and you should have a handout for this video. And in the handout, there's some exercises for you to do. And one of the things I want you to look at, and you can stop this video and do it and then start it again, or you can do it after the video. But I want you to think about a recent time that you felt the urge to jump in and fix something or someone else. And then I want you to look at what was the impact on your business and your time. What was the impact on your business and your time? And also, what was the impact on your personal life and your time? So when we transform this fixer archetype and we shift it to be powerful in our business, we shift out of the shadow side of it. We shift from fixer to empowered leader. And this is when we can practice delegation. These are some things you can do to facilitate this shift. And it's practice delegation. And I know that might be hard for you because those of us that are running the fixer usually have a hard time receiving. And when we have a hard time receiving, we have a hard time delegating. The other piece in this is if I delegate it, it's not going to be done right. And that's what's tripping us up. So practice delegation. Empower others to solve their own problems. And one of the ways that I did this is when I first started looking at this and somebody would have a problem, I'd jump at it. I'd drop what I was doing and go in and fix the problem. And it worked for a while until it didn't. Because I started getting overwhelmed and I started getting behind on the things that I needed to be doing to move my business forward and grow it. And what I started doing is when the problem came up, I waited before I reacted. I waited to respond. And in doing that, I gave them time to figure it out. And I will tell you about 90% of the time when I did get back with them about it, they had already solved the problem. And this took a little time because I had trained people that I would jump on it and fix it for them. But when I started waiting, then they started figuring out how to get it done for themselves because they didn't want to wait on me. And it was a win-win for that. And I really believe, and I practice this with my own kids, is that I really try to not do something for somebody that they can do for themselves. Because we disempower them when we do that. But if we just believe in them and tell them that, they are perfectly capable and set them up for success, then they're empowered, and it's better in our life, our personal life, and it's better in our work environment. So empower others to solve their own problems, and then set boundaries around what's truly your responsibility. And to know what that is, sometimes that can be confusing and hard to identify. But one of the things that I do, there's some questions I ask myself is this mine? And this is in your handout. Is this mine? Do I have to do this, or can somebody else? And who can I delegate this to? So these are just self-discovery questions that you can ask yourself. And then explain when you delegate something, make sure you explain to them or show them exactly what you want so you can set them up for success. And you're going to be much happier with your results, because what I find a lot of times, the fixer runs into trouble when they delegate, but they don't give clear direction. And I know this very well from personal experience. And what may be running through your mind is, I don't have time. You get in that situation, it's like, I don't have time to explain it. By the time I explain it to them, I could do it myself. So if you said that, you've got the fixer running. But what I have found, and what the people, all of the women that I have worked with have found, if they take the time and they have the patience to show people how they want it done, and they set them up for success, that is huge in their business and will continue to save them time, because they're going to be able to delegate to that person. That person is going to know exactly how they want things done. And it builds a bond and a trust, which is one of the really important aspects of creating high-performing teams. So that is the fixer in a nutshell. And this is just an overview for this. But I want you to be able to recognize them and have some tools to start to shift it. This is just the beginning. And then the martyr. The martyr is a tricky one, and it is sneaky. And I think most of us know we run martyr. If you don't, you might once we talk about this. But the martyr is always putting others first and sacrificing their own needs, time, well-being for the business or for their clients or for their family. And this archetype leads to exhaustion. It leads to resentment. When I get into start resenting, I always know that this is up negatively for me. And it really is an unsustainable way of running a business, because eventually you're going to slip and growth is going to stop, and the team is not going to be performing at its best. So how the martyr shows up is by saying yes to extra work or tasks that end up overwhelming you or taking all your time. And it's out of a sense of obligation. You feel a sense of obligation to your business, to your clients, to your team, to your family, to your friends. It could show up in a lot of different ways. So one of the things you can do to start to turn this around is start to put your own needs first, because the martyr also puts their own needs last. whether it's time for rest, self-care. Self-care is always the first appointment to go, pursuing your own growth, because it feels selfish to prioritize yourself. And this is one of the first things I work with my clients on, because it's so important to begin to put yourself first as a priority. And it's not easy. And I'm going to share with you at the end of the video a method that I created that have helped hundreds of women shift this for themselves so that they can begin putting themselves first without feeling selfish and without the guilt. So one of the exercises you can do to begin to step into that, begin to start putting yourself as a priority, is the question I want you to ask yourself, and that's in your handout, is I want you to identify one area in your business and one area in your life where you have been over sacrificing and not receiving what you need in return. So identify one area in your life, in your business and in your life, where you've been sacrificing and not receiving what you need in return. So just to think about this, and it may be a list by the time you get done. But when we go to transform and shift this martyr energy, this martyr story archetype, we go from martyr to influential leader, and it's taking your leadership up a notch. And what that looks like is holding the vision for your business, bringing the team into the vision, utilizing people's gifts in their work, and connecting it to what is also in it for your team, connecting it to their why, creating a win-win environment, a win for the business and a win for them. And understanding, and this is really important, understanding that your well-being directly affects the success of your business. Directly affects the success of your business. Prioritizing self-care so that it's not the first appointment or the first thing that gets set aside when somebody needs you. And then learn to say no without the guilt. Recognizing it as a powerful business decision. And this is a biggie for me. And no, period, is a complete sentence. There is no explanation needed. And I don't want to get off on a tangent. I'm going to stick to my notes. But no, period is a full sentence. It's so important to be able to do that because it just frees you up so much when you can. And you'll be surprised at how much more time you'll have. You'll be surprised at how people then start respecting your time and not asking you to do so many things that then you feel obligated to do. So it's a really powerful thing to learn to do, is to say no without the guilt. So that is the martyr archetype, an overview of the martyr archetype. So if any of those hit a nerve, or you recognize it in your own behavior, or the impact of it in your life, it's something to look into a little further. And you're not alone. Like I said, most of my clients over the last 15 years are running at times all three, and at least one or two. And I have run all three of these archetypes. So the third archetype is the people pleaser. And this was the hard one for me to see because I thought, I'm not a people pleaser. Because the people pleaser is driven by the need to be liked and accepted. And I used to think, I don't need to be liked. I don't care if they don't like me or not, whatever. But there was a need to be accepted. And it's a little different. And to be honest with you, I think most people want to be liked. We're human. It's natural to want to be liked, to want to be accepted. You know, the human race or we're pack animals. We're not meant to be solo and alone. We're meant to be together. We're meant to collaborate. So this people pleaser is an important archetype to look at, but also to shift into something really powerful for you. So this archetype in the shadow side, when it's working negatively, the negative story often leads to overcommitting, undercharging, and this is a big one I see, and compromising your own business values to make others happy. And compromising can be really sneaky, how it shows up in many areas of your life. So how the people pleaser shows up is agreeing to terms or prices or projects that don't serve your business just to avoid a conflict or disappointment. It also shows up as feeling uncomfortable when setting boundaries, firm boundaries, and advocating for yourself. It can feel very uncomfortable for that. And when those two things are running, and these you can recognize, you know, if this is showing up for you, then the people pleaser, you're going to want to take some action around this, to turn this around. So one of the exercise that's in your handout, I'd like you to answer questions is, when have you recently said yes when you really wanted to say no? And what was the cost to your business and well-being? What was the cost to your business and well-being? And one of the ways we transform the people pleaser is we shift it into a purpose-driven entrepreneur, small business owner. And we align your actions. You're going to want to align your actions with your long-term vision. You're going to want to set clear boundaries. And remember, when we set boundaries, boundaries are about what you'll do, not what the other person does. And that's a whole nother thing, but I think it's important to mention here, because the clear boundaries you want to set are about what you will do, not what they will do. And then I want you to learn your worth, to really learn to lean into your worth without the need for approval. You are worthy because you are here. And this is something women really struggle with, and I've struggled with. So to transform this and get to the place where we value our worth without the need for approval liberates you so much to be able to stand in that. So this is the people pleaser. So I want to recap and summarize these three archetypes for you. So the fixer often leads to overwork, neglecting one's own priorities, and taking on too much responsibility. When we transform the fixer, you begin to delegate and trust the people you delegate it to, and trust yourself. You begin to empower others to solve their own problems, and they will. And you start setting boundaries around what is truly your own responsibility. And then the martyr, the archetype that leads to exhaustion, resentment. And I think resentment is the biggest one, because when you run martyr, resentment builds very quickly. And it also is an unsustainable way of running a business. You'll bump up against this quite a bit. You'll know you're bumping up against it because you'll start carrying resentment and you'll be exhausted. When you transform the martyr, you'll step into influential leadership. You'll know that your well-being directly affects the success of your business. You'll prioritize your self-care, and you'll say no without the guilt. Wouldn't that feel good? Yeah, it does. I'll tell you. So the people pleaser. The people pleaser leads to overcommitting, undercharging, and compromising your own business values to make others happy. When you transform this, you'll align your actions with your long-term vision. You'll set clear boundaries, and you'll learn to value your worth without the need for approval. And transforming these three archetypes is how we unlock new levels of success, fulfillment, and fun. Things get a lot more fun. So I want to encourage you to take action on these exercises in the handout and begin to making these shifts today. Just a little bit. Don't take it all on at once, but just pick one thing that's coming up. One thing that really resonated you in this training and around these three archetypes. Take that one thing and take action on it. And for those of you who want to go a little deeper and begin the journey of transformation with these three archetype patterns, and as a thank you for your time, I want to offer you a first step and a $100 coupon off my online course, Joyful Play, the art of putting yourself as a priority without the guilt. And this is the course that, and a method that I created, years ago. But I have brought hundreds of women through this, and it has dramatically shifted their business and their personal life. It has allowed them to grow their business and create a lifestyle. It has allowed them to put themselves as a priority, have time for themselves without sacrificing any other parts of their life. It has allowed them to take back their power, to have more meaning and fulfillment and vitality in their life. I love this program so much. And this online course is $197. And you have the link to it in the handout, and you have a code in the handout to get you $100 off this course. And you can do it in your own time. And it just gives you it's a really wonderful way to keep yourself energized and revitalized. And it doesn't have to take a lot of time. It doesn't have to take a lot of time. So I want to thank you so much for being with me today in this video. I have also put my email address on the handout because I would love to hear from you, and I would love to hear your thoughts on this, how it helped you, and any questions that you may have. So I'm going to end this with one thought, and it is: the more you release these archetypes, the more empowered you become as a business owner. The key to unlocking your full potential lies in transforming the hidden patterns into sources of strength. Go out, be great, and transform these archetypes. Thank you.